So all the brouhaha that's been happening in regards to the on-set drama, behind-the-scenes stuff that's happened with Don't Worry Darling did not deter me from going to see Miss Florence Pugh. So I'm going to give you my thoughts and reaction to the latest film from Olivia Wilde called Don't Worry Darling right after the jump. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. This is going to be difficult for this one, but I'm going to do my best to be spoiler free because I think a lot of, while not new, which we'll get into, there are a lot of things that I would like to talk about in further conversations about this movie that I'm going to try to leave for the audience or anybody who has not yet seen this to kind of get there on their own. I'm also not going to talk about any of the stuff that happened on set and behind the scenes with anybody. I don't want that to deter or shape how you feel about the film. I think that may have had some inkling as to why some of the Rotten Tomato scores for this are a little bit lower than what I think naturally should be. But I also know why they're that low. So I just got back from seeing this film. And let me start off by saying that Booksmart was one of my favorite films of the year that it came out. I think Olivia Wilde took a very simple, small concept and was what has been done before with all the male comedies, coming of age comedies, made a female version, and I adored it because it came from a different lens and came from a different viewpoint. But it was very small and self-contained and looked like what would a film from a first-time director would look like. This time, Olivia is doing a little bit of the same thing, taking from things that she's seen before, repurposing it, but putting her own twist on it and putting a different spin on the ideal of it, but making it a much more high concept film. And I think she has definitely grown as a director in both visuals, some of the styles, the way things are shot, the use of music. This feels like a much bigger film, and a huge leap from first film to second film. And so kudos to her because I think she does a great job as a director on this. Miss Florence Pugh, Miss Flo, Miss Florence Pugh is phenomenal in this movie. I honestly think this movie would fail miserably had she not been the lead. Like a lot of the weight of what is to be believed, accepted, and the journey that we go through is because we get to go see it through the eyes of Alice. That's our POV. For those who don't know what this film is, and I'm gonna dance around a little bit, but basically, Alice starts to question how and what her life is and has become. And in that starts unraveling a bigger mystery. And I like that this film, and Olivia does a great job of allowing us to sort of take our time to get to that point. I think as a director, sometimes you want to rush to the finish line, you want to rush to get to this point. And I think it does a very good job of getting to that point slowly, intricately, but without blowing the entire load. And then when it finally is revealed, you're like, ah. Like I said, I think Florence Pugh is a phenomenal actress, and this movie would fail had she not been the person that was chugging this along. I think Chris Pine, anytime he's on screen, anytime he and Florence are on screen together, it is a masterclass of tit for tat. It's like watching two people play tennis back and forth, and they're serving it up to each other amazingly. I do have a bit of an issue with one of the other actors. The lead actor of Harry Styles plays Jack. There are moments when his performance does work. I think when he has to be to the nine super angry, he does really well there. I think he gets that feeling across. I think some of the smaller moments, or when it has to be a little bit more one-to-one, I feel like he is unfortunately getting circles wrapped around him by Florence. And it very much feels like he's on an uneven playing field, and it's it makes some of the things hard for me to kind of stomach and watch because it just doesn't feel like a little bit of the believability that I have in everything that's happening, because I think Olivia puts everything, the style, the homes, everything feels very Stepford Wife-ish, but sometimes Harry's performance pulls me out of that a bit. The other thing is, then this isn't on Harry necessarily. The story of Jack doesn't feel, trying to do this without spoiling, doesn't feel completely earned or complete. It feels like there's something missing, a small piece that is missing that doesn't make the entire story that we get for him feel complete. And some of that's on Harry's before. Some of it may could have been cleaned up in like the way he looks and responds to things. Maybe it would have been in a performance. Some of it's in the script, and I just don't feel like the A, B to the C quite get there. I feel like we get to A to C, and there's a piece missing that would make the entire arc feel a lot more earned and a lot more truthful for me. I don't mind ambiguous endings. So I know a lot of people have been saying that this didn't stick the landing. The landing, I think, gets stuck. I think the process, the piece right before the landing is where I sort of have a bit of a herky-jerky feeling to this. I think the biggest issue, and a lot of people are having problems with this film, is that it is very much a hodgepodge of greatest hits from films that have done this before, some to some effect better. But here's the thing. I think I knew what this film was going to be. From the trailers, I was like, I have an idea, I know what this is. But what's crazy is that after watching the film and knowing what's happening, kind of being a bit ahead, like the twists and turns that happen in this movie don't really shock anybody who's been a part of these type of films before. But it is done with such a great lead performance. It's done with such great style and direction that the majority of it all works and pays off, that I never feel like I'm bored or upset that I spent the time here. Like, I think everything that's put on screen is great, besides a few complaints that I have. But it is not new. It is not reinventing the wheel. It is not creating a brand new thriller. It is not creating a brand new sex thriller. The sex stuff is not. I know Florence had a bit of an issue with the way that it was used in trailers, and I can kind of understand that because that's not a big piece of this. It's a piece of the story that Jack has and telling why this is happening the way that it happens, but it has nothing to like that did not need to be in the trailer, truthfully. Other than the sale that the hot musician is going down on Florence Pugh. I can sort of see why Florence would be, if she is, I can see why she would be upset with that. But there's nothing new here. There's no reinventing the wheel. You've seen this before. If you mix sort of Stepford Wives with Antebellum, with Get Out, you kind of get a mix of what this film is giving you, but it is all done with a style and with a fervor that I think works. And I think, if nothing else, to see the trajectory of Olivia Wilde's career as a director, and to see Florence Pugh put on another masterclass of acting with a little bit more Chris Pine, which I think he should just be doing more in general, I am willing to take the good with the small bad that I have. And I think it's like 95 to 96% perfect with Harry Styles' performance, and a bit of an issue with his character overall that just pulls me out of it. But I do know why those scores, it's all lack of originality. And for them, they don't think that the style or the road to get there is higher than the lack of originality. Where me, I think they're pretty much on a level playing field. So on my scale of play it again, Sam, once is enough. I didn't mind that. Or give me a time zone so I never have to think about this film again. This falls in the play it again, Sam. It has warts, it has some issues, but I can't shake this film. Like, this film is sticking with me. Some of that might be the performance. I think the style, yes, it's not new, but I love the way that it is packaged in this, and I think she does a great job of putting this on Front Street. And I think that it is important that we get films that sort of call some of the movements that men are doing and that some men are a part of out. You will walk out of this film like, man ain't shit, and I'm a man. We ain't shit. But those are my thoughts. I enjoy this film quite a bit, and I don't know where it stands when all the films go at the end of the year, where it ranks in my top 10, but right now it's pretty high. It's going to be in that top 10 as of this moment. But what did you guys think about this film? Go ahead and leave your thoughts and comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at Hollywood80i. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast with the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.